No skills.
Hello everybody, we are NoSkill Entertainment. We are back here at the fireside, having fun, hanging out, and today with two guests, not just one. We're having fun. We've got my good friend DJ here, accompanied along with a companion camera as well, so that should be fun and exciting. And further down, Head King Editor Lizard Brandon TheDravo himself.
What's up?
Our tech genius behind all of this insanity, running the controls and keeping me on my toes. So if you see me doing this, you know what happened. I'm trying my best. But with all the exciting tech upgrades out of the way, we're here to actually take a step back from modern technology and revisit the heyday and glory days of gaming, where it all started. Because I know people out there aren't going to believe me. Video games didn't always used to be home entertainment. They used to be locational or vocational, depending on which word you want to use. I'm not that smart, but you used to have to go travel, and back in the good days of me and DJ, you had to go for a walk, carry a fistful of quarters, and try to make it look like you weren't doing something sketchy. That's just
you also had to talk to people.
Yeah, you really did. There was a steep learning curve to the social etiquette of the old arcade gaming.
Which I'll get into some of that later on.
Yeah, those places used to always be packed.
On the tirade. Always. And like I said, before we get off on the tirade, we'll do a brief starter sequence. A little bit of an introduction to kind of get a feel from where we come from, because while we're the same age bracket, vastly different locations, a lot younger over there, and oh, Siege is asleep. I should have counted on that. This video gets 100 likes, I'll go flip him out of bed. Anyways, the early days were weird for me, but let's just start with the most modern of the group over there. Brandon, hate to put you on the spot, but I think you're going to some vastly different takes.
Well, with me, and DJ should know, there isn't anyone who has lived in Arizona or in Phoenix, more specifically. There is a place called, I think it was Castles and Coasters.
Yep.
They used to have this huge building with like 3 or some floors, and all of them had arcade machines, fucking different types of games like foosball, kinds of crap. You know, it seemed endless, and there was so much to do there. And every time we were to go out there, because there's not just that building, there was of course roller coasters and all kinds of different log rides and all that stuff. And it did have so much entertainment, so many games. I never played them all, but I played quite a few, and some of my favorites were the classics like Time Crisis, House of the Dead, fucking some old Street Fighters, some Mortal Kombat, that type of stuff. Heck, there was even I forget what the name of it was, but it was like a racing arcade game, and it had to do with ski boats.
Hydro Thunder.
Yeah, that one, Hydro Thunder. That was fun, especially if you had someone to race against, not just bots. That was fun.
The new one is up to 4-player racing, and I didn't know it existed until I sat down in the 4th seat.
What the
I
fuck?
almost got dusted by a. I don't want to sound rude. She was a mom, and her kids were about my age, and she was whooping the shit out of all of us. It wasn't even close, folks. Like, not by a long shot. I finished 9th, she finished 2nd, and all of her kids were somewhere up in 15th and 16th. So we gotta practice on the new one.
That's an arcade mom right there. She grew up on that shit. She knew what was up.
Oh, she knew alternate routes and all that shit. And I think it's so funny that all these classic things are still going. And the games we played, Brandon also played. Brandon also had fun with it because arcades, I think, you can feel free to argue with me here, are timeless. Like, it's just a nostalgia.
Timeless,
very well.
the universal. There's something for anyone in those things.
So I remember I met some of my closest friends growing up at arcades because arcades made you talk to people. Like I'll get into like more details later on, but prime example of it: you go to the arcade by yourself and you want to play that Simpsons beat 'em up game. That's a 4-player game. I'm sitting there asking people like, "Hey, do they want to play? Do they want to play? Do they want to play?" And we're sitting there just like making friends for life and not even realizing it because, hey, you want to play this game that I need help on? This would be sick.
Oh yeah. That's
Right?
I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Brandon, no offense to you or your generation.
No.
You're a little older than most of. You're a lot more mature. You're a little older on your side of things versus the generation you actually came from.
Hey, I'll take that as a huge compliment. I even hate my generation most of the time.
A lot of you guys didn't get that. Anyways, a lot of you guys didn't get that experience Deej is talking about. Like, you obviously went to castles and coasters. You had your fun. You were able to get in and get your hands on it. There's so many kids that... Okay, I can't even say kids. There's so many young adults your age who are... I'll ask, oh, have you ever heard of this arcade game? And be like, well, arcades were dead in the 80s. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Are you on...
Are you on crack?
Stopping conversation now before violence initiates.
I'm about to throw hands.
Because the hard thing now is the fact that most arcades don't exist anymore unless they're part of, say, a major chain or a big business. Like Brandon was saying with castles and coasters, that was a huge booming thing because it was a tourist attraction for anybody that either A, lives in Arizona or is visiting, because it had a little something for everybody, from like a little bit of a water park to amusement park rides, and then there's also an arcade. Then there's big franchises like Dave & Buster's, where the main focal point is the arcade.
Yep.
Like, this is what you're here for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry. I was actually going to ask, Brandon, we got derailed already, but was that the only thing in your guys' area? Because I don't want to be mean or sound like I'm talking out of my ass.
Oh no, this is Phoenix,
Arizona.
But this is Phoenix, Arizona. This was like the big city. There was a lot of places, but when I lived in Arizona, I was a wee child. There's not many places that my parents were willing to take me to. Castles and Coasters was like that big, surefire thing to take a kid and he'll have fun, because there's a go-kart race, a small water park, rides, and a huge arcade building. So it was easy for them to take a little child and have a day out of it. It was easy, accessible.
Dude, that's cool. Like, I'm glad there was something there for you, because when we were young, these things were everywhere, and nowadays I'm literally driving by the ghosts of my childhood when I'm going places, because I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what used to be our version of castles and coasters. It was called Paradise Island, and now it's a bar and grill and just a huge empty lot. And it's kind of weird.
Oh, and of course the good. Also, I was gonna also point out the good old Chuck E. Cheese was also an option, but I never really cared to go there for anything but the arcade.
Oh, screw that rat, dude.
Nothing like a ball that smells like piss.
Bro. Only reasons I would ever go there was because some other kid had a birthday party there, and then other than that, I never went there.
Same.
I hated it there.
Same. I had fun there, but it was always like an annoying thing of the book time for the parties were always stacked on top of each other. So there was like 10 parties going on, kids everywhere, parents not giving a fuck. It was always a disaster, and somebody always got hurt. Everything was padded in foam and super soft plastic and not meant to be beat up on, but somehow some dumbass cousin was always like, my ankle's fractured, and you're just like, no, you're fine, and then he just collapses. You're like, oh shit, he's hurt. He's really... Someone, please, I'm 7. I don't know.
That place was literally, before the term ever existed, that was the place for you to find the Karen.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Hunger Games. But yeah,
that too, but it's
Hunger Games or Lord of the Flies. Like, in that place, that was a lawless land in that play area. Like if you got exiled from the clan, they violently threw you down that slide, and you had to go crying to mom because now nobody wanted to play with you. But now, when it comes to Chuck E. Cheese, now nothing against Chuck E. Cheese. Actually, everything against Chuck E. Cheese. I hate that place. Even the arcade games were kind of mid. They weren't fantastic. You had a couple of claw grab machines, and then maybe one type of like on-rail shooter game. And that's assuming if they didn't deem it too violent. Yep. And then also there was like Whack-A-Rabbit, Whack-A-Mole. And I'm like, the only reason why I had any sort of interest is, for some reason, the final prize that was the most expensive on the prize board was something that was actually, you know what, kind of decent. I now have a goal. I'm going to achieve said goal.
Yeah, they were pretty mid.
Other than that, I really did not care for Chuck E. Cheese. Especially that rat. He smelled.
Charles into cheese.
Put some respect on his name.
His brother died in the war.
Charles smells like enchilada cheese.
I don't even know how to respond to that. Anyways, Brandon was going on. Yeah, Brandon was talking about Chuck E. Cheese before DJ just disrespected a hero. But anyways.
Okay.
But arcade-wise, Brandon, do you have anything else to add on top of that, or because I was about to chime in?
No. Well, after I left Phoenix, Arizona, that was it. So go ahead.
All right, this is a good transition.
Oh, there was also Desert Ridge. Desert Ridge was sick. Do you remember Desert Ridge?
I never went. I know about it. I never went.
It was sick.
All right. So now we're making the official transition to DJ because this one's going to be off the rails. I'm pretty sure we're going to be here for a minute. So DJ, now that you're all settled and you've been through your 20th avatar change, how'd you get started?
So, video game wise, my first console was an NES, and it was actually weird how we ended up getting this NES. So on this NES, two big ones that my brother and I played is we played Duck Hunt and we played Super Mario. Now, how we attained this, I felt so horrible. I love my brother to death, and I'm so happy that he's doing much better now for himself. He's a grown man. He's due to get married. But when he was a wee tot, he ended up getting pneumonia. So he was hospitalized for a while, and then I don't know how they set up or did this, but randomly some lady just walks in to the room while we're sitting there hanging out with my brother. We're trying to hang out with, you know, a literal child, and she rolls in, kind of like how teachers did back in the day. She rolls in this TV that's sitting on like this wheeled tray, and then she puts a Nintendo underneath it, plugs it in, and says, "Have fun, go nuts." So now, speeding up, my brother's made a full recovery. My mom sends my brother and I to go return said Nintendo, and the lady goes, No, that's yours. Congratulations. And I'm like, oh. Especially while we were playing it. That's how. Okay, real talk. That dog from Duck Hunt, that was my very first bully. Okay, the way he would laugh at me.
Fuck's sake.
It hurt me. Like, it did something to me to this day. And I'm in my 30s now.
You don't want to play the VR version. So that's how we got our first console.
I do now that you said it.
Fuck.
But, so that's how we got our first console. When it came to arcade gaming, there was this roller rink that was like 4 blocks away from my house. And I would get on my bike. My mom would give me like a $5 bill. And especially if my mom gave me a $5 bill, I'd go straight to the arcade, lock up my bike with my chain. Oh yeah,
yep.
And
those days.
Yep.
Walk in, and there's kids there's kids everywhere. I'm like, I'd say maybe 10, maybe even younger. And I go to the change machine, and it just simply has it's this big black machine, and then there's just this green piece of slate on it that says 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. And I'm like, this is a 5. That's that same number. Eat it. And I feed the $5 bill into the machine, and it just spits out what I think is 10 million quarters that can barely fit in my little corduroy pockets. And I start lining my pockets up. I think I am like wealthy as shit. I think I am the richest kid in this place because it just spit out to me what was a mountain of quarters. And the first thing that I go to is I went to the original Street Fighter, where there was a line of people trying to challenge this one guy because all he was doing was picking Blanco, and he was just spamming jab.
Oh my god!
Because for anybody that knows what happens after you hit jab for the 4th time, there's a reason why you're that guy. That's how he was winning, was just jab, 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 electrocute. That was it. So then you had your...
yeah.
And then some
All
throwbacks.
you need to do is pick Cammy. But, you know, I ain't getting into that.
You had a bunch of dudes that were obsessed with Ryu and Ken and Zangief.
Okay, Geef's respectable. Everybody else who got poster boy syndrome, there's a reason you lost. All of you, remember that.
Yep.
Like, I'm happy you memorized how to do the Hadouken move, but that ain't gonna matter when Zangief wraps you up. That's it. You're getting suplexed. Or tornado spin. But so going off of what Brandon said with after the whole Time Crisis and House of the Dead thing, the ones that I remember still to this day, the Simpsons one that I told you that I mentioned earlier, that one was you need to just go with the bros, or you need to go and talk to somebody at that arcade and run the Simpsons game. Like that Simpsons game was that was a different time. But I also remember the On Rails Jurassic Park game that I thought was absolutely the most terrifying thing on the planet and impossible to beat because I was so scared.
That was incredibly difficult, especially.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that?
I was gonna say that was really a tough one right there.
Yeah, the bosses in that were true quarter eaters. Like you had to know the rhythm, you had to have the timing down, and then the T-Rex that just inexplicably goes invisible, and you have like 5 seconds to hit it out of its attacks. Fucking ridiculous. That was a relentless E for everybody game. It really was.
Yeah.
E for everybody except this 9-year-old that's about to shit himself because he's looking at a real dinosaur. In my mind, that thing was real.
Yeah, did you play the stand-up or did you play the cabinet where you sit inside the big booth?
The cabinet.
Ooh.
Those things are
Well, I played both.
terrifying.
The first one was... Yeah. Especially like they already put you inside a dark background. Then you have to shut the curtains, which completely blacks out everything to where all you see is the screen. And now I see this T-Rex open mouth trying to eat me. For about 5 seconds, I thought he was actually real.
Oh, I believe
I was also a child at the time.
Believe it.
So there was that one. Then there was a Contra. Contra was a big one. I didn't play too much Contra, but Contra was also there. The original Area 51.
I love it. Classic.
Love it. Yep.
And then the original Terminator, like the first Terminator one, where they actually put like these two big, like oversized Uzi guns, and you never played with anybody else. You just jacked 2 quarters in, and then you started dual wielding on your own.
Oh my god! I haven't heard anybody dual wielding in an arcade in so many years. Oh
man.
You're taking me back.
And then the last one for me, the one that stuck out to me for the longest time, and I wish they would make again, Silent Scope was one of my biggest go-tos.
Well, that cabinet was so expensive and so state-of-the-art compared to everything else. When it broke, it wasn't a cheap fix. If you've never heard of Silent Scope, YouTube it. It looks sick, and it has a presence in the arcade.
Oh, yeah.
A regular mom-and-pop pizza shop can't afford to maintenance it. Chuck E. Cheese can't buy it because, you know, it's not kid-friendly. Silent Scope was such a niche gem, and I really wish that somebody else bought the franchise and just kept it going, because that would have been sick.
Silent Scope was for, not for none, like, Silent Scope was for the elite of, like, you need to have a good shot, and you need to be patient, and you also need to have a mom that really doesn't care. Because my mom would like hang over my shoulder while I'm sitting there trying to sight in. Long story short, when it comes to silent scope, you have a really outrageously long sniper rifle that actually has actual screen tracking inside the scope, to where you're pointing in the scope will be where you're looking on the actual screen. And ultimately, you're looking at this big building, and you have to eliminate all the targets that you see pop up before they either A, kill you, or B, time runs out.
Turn it down.
And always during the final stage, it will be some sort of hostage situation where some guy is on the ground, you know where he is, but he has somebody in front of him, and you have to hit him in the head. That's where the steady hand comes in. And my mom, without fail, every time I have him sighted in, I let out my breaths. Now I am even more steady. I have it aimed at his forehead, and then I hear, "What you playing, son?" Ah! Sorry if that peaks.
No, you're fine.
It did.
So sorry.
We're
In advance. Sorry, audience.
She didn't have an issue with the way you regained health in that game?
No.
Do you know how you regain health in that game?
No.
Brandon, do you, before I sound like the only loser in this podcast? No? Okay, cool.
I'm not gonna lie. What game are we talking about again? Sorry.
Silent scope.
Oh, no. I honestly, the places that I went to never had the cabinet. I never got a chance to play it.
Okay, so if you're playing Silent Scope, you lose health every time you hit somebody who is not your target, so any bystander, or taking too long, the bots will shoot back and damage you. If you want to regain health, you're looking through your scope at buildings with windows and open sight lines. You have to look into the buildings. You have to find a lady who is in the process of undressing. They'll turn and see you, get embarrassed, slam the window, and that's how you regain health in that game.
I remember now.
That is canon, how you regain health in Silent Scope. That game was
Yep,
for
I
a much
remember
more
that
mature audience, which makes me freak out that it's still over at Golfland Sunsplash down the road. Like, why are they still allowing this? I don't know. But
Interesting.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
Interesting bit of trivia for everybody out there.
Yeah, Silent Scope was like the game that got me into. Well, I'm not gonna say sniping because it'll be years later before Call of Duty came out. For the Call of Duty that got me started, so that was gonna still be a while. But the Silent Scope was just one of those you know what, this is where if I think that I'm worth my chops, I need to be able to get a higher score than my buddies do, because we would have I guess you could say our version of a LAN tournament where it's I would take my turn and now you got to beat my score.
Yeah, that's how it went.
Old school right
That's
there.
how it went. Yep.
And then one more. I know I said one more with Silent Scope, but last one. Anybody remember the horror on rails Carnival?
Oh my God! Don't you
This
say
guy
those words
does.
to me. You know damn
This
well
guy
I do.
does.
To an obsessive degree, Carnival is hands down one of the greatest rail shooters of all time, and deserves to be recognized and relaunched, not forgotten in a shed somewhere where people write horrible fan fiction that involves Sailor Moon ROMs. Yeah. I've gone some places in pursuit of bringing back one of my favorite games of all time. Other people have gone far worse places. So that exists. It's on YouTube. There's a 20-minute documentary that breaks down the secret. Hold on, I need my two fingers. Cult of Carnival. And if you got 20 minutes you don't mind wasting on absolute garbage, check it out. But yeah, the game's a classic. Love that shit.
That shit was so fucking hard for me back in the day. Not only just
Carnival's
because I was
reader.
scared out of my mind. I was scared out of my mind at what I was seeing, because it was very I don't want to say claymate, but it's how would you describe it? Somebody went apeshit in the 3D animator, and they just made something, gave it eyeballs in the mouth, and it was in Carnival.
I get what you say with the claymation. What I can't think of the name of it, but it's a kind of way of old school 3D modeling that was very realistic, and it sells horror so well because at the time technology wasn't able to get like the Evil Within or Resident Evil that we're used to today.
Yeah.
That was something that was uncanny because it was so close to real, but so alien. Your brain didn't know how to process it. And if you still see shit like that, like if you saw a modern version of Clay Fighters, your skin would still crawl because you don't have the right capacity. Whether you believe certain theories of neuroscience or not, your brain has a trigger when it sees something close enough to real, but not. And we can't explain why. There's a lot of stuff going on. One moment.
While he's taking his moment, I actually recently watched a speed run of Carnival. Somebody just did a speed run of it because you can get on. I think that you can get on a couple different emulators. And even still to this day,
people have access to the cabinet.
No, in this case, it was some sort of emulator because now he gave himself the ability to have unlimited ammo. Like he just wanted to show the game off.
Oh, yeah.
And even now, still to this day, like 15, 20 years later, I'm looking on screen now. I'm not terrified like I was when I was a child, but even then, it's like even now, I'm still like, yep, that's still very creepy. All right,
okay.
Sick.
And the reason you feel that way, sorry, I had like 9 things happening in the house. Your brain has this self-defense mechanism when it sees something so close to natural but isn't. It freaks you out. Some people think it's because of aliens. Other people think it's because of disease, which actually makes a lot of sense. You'd want to avoid something that was a person but no longer is. Otherwise, you might get sick of whatever they had. So, Carnival, I think the art style just threaded that line perfectly, and that's why it's still creepy. It's still unnerving. And it is still difficult as all hell. I've beat the game 12 times, and there are some bosses that are just rigged to make you work your ass off and throw quarters at them because they are unforgiving. But that's just my horrible 2 cents. DJ, what is your face doing? It's so hard to work when you're winking at me and doing all this like weird shit.
Like you just turn to me, your face starts.
What's going on? What am I doing?
Look,
exactly.
Like, tongue out, like okay.
No, dude, he was full on winking at me, give me the head tilt, and I'm like, I'm trying to talk. Can you make a pass at me later, please? I am professional. It's like, there's a camera right there that's gonna catch all of this later. Be like, what is DJ doing?
It's one of those, like, as I'm pressing buttons, like pressing the triggers and shit, I can't see my hands so what my hands are doing, but there's a corresponding face that this character will make based off of what my hands are doing.
Well, yeah, that's
highly
how it all
professional.
happens.
We test all of our avatars before we start recording. Isn't that right, Brandon?
Yep.
I literally sat here trying to find a character that, folds her legs, and then ultimately I couldn't. The last character that I had that could fold her legs, her tits were, like, hanging out to, down the street. So I was like, you know what? Sweater. Happiness.
I love how DJ tries to make it sound like he's the victim. He downloaded all these characters.
Yep.
Green boy. There's nothing wrong with him.
That's
He's
horny on main. He's horny on main.
Lizard King. Nothing wrong over there. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
But I still need to get with you to show me how to get this created again, because I do want an actual, like, wolf boy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that one's going to be on the pay to paywall because furries will pay for things. But that's for another day.
Alright. Yeah, but so...
Anyways, you were saying.
I was muted when I was pointing to myself the first time. When you said that you've beaten Carnival 12 times, I still to this day have not beaten it. Because that was going to be the start of where I became a quote-unquote rage gamer. Because Carnival, as soon as I stopped being afraid of it, I started getting pissed. Oh, I remember being so angry at this game.
I can see that because Hambone has guaranteed damage the first boss most players encounter because Carnival's choose your own path. but everybody always starts with the easiest one, not knowing that it has two bosses, one of which has guaranteed damage, and the other one has very tight framework. So Bloody Mary is not something to scoff at, and I can see how 9-year-old DJ's just sitting here trying to rip the light gun out of the cabinet because he's screaming.
Oh, my bad.
Yep.
But yeah, fucking.
Oh yeah,
You're good.
I might not have any like insight or experience with Carnival, but from what I've seen on like YouTube and what I've heard from you guys talking, because this is the first time this arcade game has come up in a podcast. We've talked about this one before, and it just sounds like
Carnival's my sleeper.
I would love to play one day because it just sounds so far up my alley.
With
That's what I'm saying. Worst case,
and the high skill ceiling. No, just sorry. With the flick shooting and the high skill ceiling, Brandon would get into it. He would be furiously breaking triggers, like no joke.
oh yeah.
It'd probably be the first game that I actually get rage at, because I'm not a rage gamer. He is, and I've seen him when he gets pissed.
Yeah. Rip to that controller that I threw through my wall. Thank you, Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh, those days.
That was a great
fun.
time.
I'm coming back for you, Chomsky.
No, it wasn't even no Chomsky. So I was the only one left. Quick side story before we go back to nostalgia and being old. So I was the only one alive. Okay, and I had to advance forward. I managed to kill everything that was in front of me. All I had to do was advance forward enough to find somebody that was locked in the closet. And I'm walking through this doorway. I don't hear anything. There was no sound cue. There was no warning. Even though every single one of the special enemies is supposed to have their own unique sound, I heard nothing. As soon as I walk through this door, I get spear tackled by a hunter, and he just claws my chest out of me like he owned the entire damn thing. And there was nothing I could do about it to fight back. And we lost everything. We were on expert realism. I threw my controller through the wall, and I went to bed.
Yeah.
I want to choose to believe DJ was talking and he didn't hear the dun, dun, dun before he got sacked like a rookie quarterback.
That's for a tank. This is a hunter. The guy that just tackles you. He didn't give me any sort of sound cue. No,
I can't sound like a piano, so I don't know how the fuck it sounds. Anyways, back to
being old.
Yeah.
How did you get your start, my friend? Yes, to contemplate. You folded the hands.
Yeah, I got the finger pyramid going, kind of. So, I had always had home entertainment of some sort. Gaming just ran in the family. My mom was big Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis kind of stuff. But when I was starting to get older, my family got into baseball and softball super heavy. And when they would go to tournaments, all of the clubhouses had arcades because, drunk people playing sports after you'd hang out. You want to go to this clubhouse with bar and huge gaming area. So I would just be there for weekends playing. Sorry, wildly unprofessional. Playing Sunset Riders, Metal Slug, Neo Geo Classic, Midway 1997. Nice. Oh my god, the Ninja Turtles beat 'em up, the Simpsons beat 'em up, all these like classic consoles, classic games. One time I was lucky enough to find a working Punisher console, and that like truly got me hooked on retro stuff.
Real quick, I just want to interject real quick, because I just found this one out yesterday. There's actually, I think it's just a revamp / remaster, but Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is now remade and on Xbox.
Oh no, that's completely an original concept.
Oh, that's an original concept?
Yes, because it has new characters, special moves, new maps, new bosses. It's like its own thing. It's a standalone. And it looks gorgeous, folks. Please check it out. Play respect to the Turtles.
It's on Game Pass, and so because I saw that it was the original 4, then April and Shredder, not Shredder, Splinter. Oh my god!
You can also play Casey.
You can?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw a trailer of Casey as well. I don't know. Maybe that one's not out yet. That might be an upcoming release.
Might be DLC. Maybe one of those you unlock them after you beat the game.
Maybe. I love old shit like that, so I hope
Same.
it's like that.
You know,
But,
it's kind of crazy whenever
yeah.
you talk about your family, Mikey, because I see so many similarities with yours and mine. Specifically, my mother, not my dad, because my dad never grew up with games. He actually never played one, probably until he got to the United States, and he still doesn't care about them. But my mother, however, she's the one that got me into arcade stuff. She was the arcade girl growing up when she was like hanging out with friends and stuff. She was at the arcades back then. I think from what I remember, she loves House of the Dead, and her favorite arcade cabinets are like Mrs. Pac-Man and Pac-Man Jr. But House of the Dead, she loves that shit too. And she's the one that got me into that stuff and introduced me to that. And I think my first game I ever played was House of the Dead, actually. And it's all because of her. Like, I don't know, my mom's side of the family, and they like games. Specifically my uncle and her, but that's a story for another time.
It's funny because up until that point in her life, she was very much a casual. And then once she found out I was on the way, she couldn't play sports. She couldn't go out and do a lot of stuff she was used to doing. So, get the Nintendo, plug it in, TV on, and she could just do that all day. And without worrying about getting hurt or stressing or doing any of that. And it just kind of turned into a thing of, all right, let's master Pac-Man. Let's master Space Invaders. Let's do Super Nintendo, or let's do Super Mario. And then let's 100% run Legend of Zelda, the original one. And then Majora's Mask. And then Ocarina of Time. And then I was born. And even like passively later in life, she kind of kept it to a certain degree, getting into games like Pokemon Go or other fun little mobile things. And like just stuff like good interactive ones that really keep you going. And it's funny because when we would go to tournaments, they would be in Nevada. DJ's very familiar with Reno specifically, right?
What's up? Reno in the house.
So we'd be out there for days, weeks at a time. And so I didn't lose my mind or go around breaking shit. Because let's face it, every 9-year-old has like a limit of how long they can sit still and behave before they spontaneously combust. It's just a known fact. So,
Yep.
Yeah. So we would do the softball, baseball thing all day. And then at night when everybody else is like, oh, let's go celebrate. Let's go to the casino. And they're like, well, you guys do that. We'll get all the kids, go to the arcades, because every major gambling town also has major arcades, because you need to keep the kids spending money as well and not destroying your shit. So we would do that. And that was a yearly thing. We did that all the time. And then once I got older, I'm like, hey, can we go to local arcades? Our local mall went through 5 different generations of arcades, and they were all different styles, all different owners. The last one is still standing. It is 2022, and they are still standing. They moved to their own building on the mall property, but it is their own like pizzeria with the arcade and all this other built.
Sick though. See, that's why I hate the fact that arcades now are becoming a dying breed. The last arcade that was near me outside of, you know, your like Dave and Buster's or like a major restaurant chain that happens to have like a small arcade in there, just a straight arcade, was about, I'd say, half a mile away from my house inside this roller rink. And as of a couple weeks ago, they started demolishing it.
Wow.
Oh, that's hard. That's
yeah.
hard.
Oh yeah,
you're right.
Like the shit, like for me, for example, is literally, I don't know where Dave and Buster's is and where in the state that I live in. I'm pretty sure there's probably one out in like the 2 big cities, Lincoln or Omaha, but like it's I cannot find any sort of like arcade area or place that has those machines. unless I probably go to the city, which is like an hour and a half drive or more from where I am right now.
Oh, it's getting harder and harder. Like,
It's getting tough.
like I was saying, since I've lived in this town, we've only had arcades in the mall, and out of all of these years, the last family is the only one standing. Everybody else closed their doors, packed up, and left. And the last family had to buy their own building because it was too expensive for them to operate in the mall. So they had to stay on the same property, make a deal, do all this backdoor stuff, and it was still more viable for them to make it as a business than just try to be a corner slot in an already established building, which is, I almost started screaming. Absolutely insane that it's that difficult these days, especially when arcades in other areas of the world, big cities, of course, in the US side, Asia has a lot of massive, and I mean state-of-the-art, cutting-edge arcades. Europe still believes in arcades. It feels like they just kind of fell out of fashion here. It's terrible because DJ said it himself. That's where you went to hang out and socialize and make friends. I love online gaming, but you're not going to get the connection, maybe in VR a little bit, but not as much, of, oh, hey, you like Street Fighter, let's go play right now. Or, oh, man, I need a partner for Time Crisis, let's go. And you don't get that anymore. And that was very important for a lot of people, especially in our generation. That was how we socialized, because a lot of boomers aren't going to want to hear this, but fuck it, they don't watch our channel anyways. Those dated ass, completely out of touch. Oh, we'll set up, we'll have our kids do this and this together. Half the time, whatever you're setting up, the kids don't want to do anyways. Let alone do it with some random punk ass. Yeah. Let alone with some random punk ass kid that just moved in down the block who's completely nuts. But side note, that's how I met Frazier. But anyway. Anyways, things like that never really worked, and 9 out of 10 times, if you think back to it, all of those things you tried to set up, maybe one of them they still kind of cool with, two of them okay with. The Exorcist.
Are you okay?
What?
Your head's freaking out.
What? Head 360s all the way. Yeah.
Give me a moment.
Go on.
Having a spot where you and your friends can post up, or you can go make friends, or you can schedule to hang out with people. It was just a real social experience that kids these days don't have. And I get it. I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot of people in the audience. Oh, what about sports? What about crafts? What about creativity? What about shit your kid wants to do? Let them have their 5 minutes to just go out and do them and not have your input on it. Because if you're allowed to drink a fucking glass of wine with your meal and not be bothered about it, we can play 10 minutes of video games. It's just a cool de-stress. It's fun, it's entertaining, and fuck off. If you're drinking red wine anyways, you're a tool. But yeah, dude, that's kind of like what it was back in our day. And it's so weird into nowadays where you gotta get on your phone, Google where they're at, figure out if you can feasibly get there for a decent price, figure out how much it costs to go in, because one of the games at Dave & Buster's that I went to, and this isn't a thing at Dave & Buster's, this is just always been an issue with maintenance in an arcade. One of the games is broken. It wasn't marked that it was broken, and it was $5 to play. So I put in my $5 because I'm a Star Wars junkie. I want my adrenaline rush. Game takes the credits. Screen looks like a Snow White, just old TV static kind of setup. Can't see anything. And how are you supposed to do anything with that? I wasted my $5. I'm like, well, fuck, I'll go play something else then. This was supposed to be my big attraction for the day. But, oh well. And
it's a bust now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just so weird, and I'm glad to some degree, especially in the States, they still exist, but it's not as easy as it used to be. It's not the nostalgia. It's not the social hub where it was. It's a tourist thing very much, right?
Very much so. And I hate to say it like this, because I got a couple pieces that I want to touch upon that you guys mentioned earlier. But now, even though I love everything about this gaming shit, but one of the biggest reasons that, or at least to me, in my opinion, one of the biggest factors that became the death of arcades was console gaming became more efficient, not efficient, but like more affordable. Because you gotta remember back in those days where like the NES, the SNES, N64, Sega Genesis, those were seen as like very expensive household items. And so instead of having to buy your child a console, it's give them $20 and then send them to the arcade, and they're set for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
So now buying a console was more of a feasible thing. Like when my mom finally got her good job, next thing you know, she buys my brother and I an N64, and I noticed, like, you know what, we haven't been going to the arcade nearly as much because we didn't have a need to. We had the games at home. So now it's like we can sit here and play, you know, Banjo-Kazooie and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and GoldenEye until our heart's content, and we don't have to leave the house.
Yep. Sorry,
Turn
my phone off.
You're good. I just want to touch up real quick because you guys talked about how your moms were gamers.
Yep.
My mom doesn't know jack shit about video games. She doesn't understand the purpose or point. Like, just simply saying it's fun doesn't compute to her as logical. The most that she has under her belt for video games is she has about, I'd say, 45 seconds of GTA San Andreas, where my brother and I, we were playing with our stepdad, and my mom was just curious as to what we were doing. Of all games that she wants to take a stab at, it's San Andreas.
Oh.
So she grabs this controller. She's moving CJ around. She ends up flipping to the very first gun that you get, like the very first pistol that you get your hands on.
Yep.
Walks up to some random old lady, plugs her, and then my mom's just like, oh no! And then she hands the controller to me, and I was just like, we're never going to be able to play GTA again. She didn't know that was a thing, but now she knows. She knows the secret. And my mom's just like, this is too violent. You kids need to take this out right now. Right now.
Yeah.
We need to find you some games that are more, you know, family friendly. And I'm like, what game is family friendly that everybody can enjoy? And that's when she pulls out Wii Sports. And I'm like, we don't even have a Nintendo Wii. Can you play it on your PlayStation? No, it's called Wii Sports. You play it on a Wii. What's a Wii?
Not a fucking PlayStation, I'll tell you that much.
And ain't no Xbox either.
I love my mom to pieces, but that's the extent of her gaming, is killing one old woman in San Andreas and then not understanding what video games are after that.
That was not an accident. That was a setup. She knew what she was doing. She was just planning.
She just wanted to plug some old woman in San Andreas.
And she felt good about it.
She called people. Oh yeah, she called people. She figured out the controls ahead of time, and she just walked up and said, "Bam!
Just
good night."
Right in the street. No witnesses.
Take this, Ethel. Bah!
No Russian. Goof.
Fucking Christ.
Oh, this is the worst.
Remember, that's funny. No elderly. But yeah, that's what mom's experience with gaming. She'll go with me to the arcade, and then when she would go with me to the arcade, she would want to ask what's this doing? What's the purpose of this? What's the point of this? And normally I wouldn't have a problem answering her when it's like a casual game, but when it was something that was requiring me to focus, that's when she wants to ask me questions at the worst time. Like, all of a sudden, she stands over my shoulder while I'm playing Time Crisis, and she's just like, "Why is it you keep having to like take your foot off this pedal?" Well, that's how I duck. Well, why do you need to duck? Well, you see, when that red circle pops up out of their gun, that means that bullet is about to hit me, and I have maybe a half a second to react. And so all of a sudden, she was just like, "Oh, let me try." I take my foot off the pedal as the dude fires around at me. She steps on the pedal. It was also my last life. So my mom gets me killed in Time Crisis, and I'm like, oh no, what happened?
Not a mistake. Your mom's not playing dumb, man. She's just fucking your day up so she can get along with hers. It's like, all right. DJ's on one life.
Like-
Let's go play stupid and just get him out of here.
And that's what was pissing me off. I'm just like, okay, either mom is really that dumb. Love you to pieces, mom. Or she's scheming against me because she always came up at the worst time and managed to screw me up in the worst way. At least with something casual, like any sort of beat 'em up game, I didn't care. It wasn't that big of a deal. That's why I was so glad when it's not called the Hilton anymore. I believe it's called the Grand Sierra Resort. It's in Reno, and they had this arcade there called Fun Quest. And one of the biggest draws I remember to this day, because I was able to play Time Crisis for like 3 hours by myself happily, but when Dance Dance Revolution first came out,
Oh, okay.
there was a line wrapped around the entire arcade waiting to just play this weird ass rhythm game, which I can't play rhythm games to save my life. Respect to people that had that type of hand and foot eye coordination. I can't. I cannot do it. I wear size 16s. Hell no, that's not happening.
Bro, talk about a game that just stormed arcades. Like, Dance Dance Revolution, when that shit came out, that was like an actual revolution. People just came from so many places just to play this one game, and the lines were insane.
It was maddening.
DDR and Guitar Hero were the rhythm games that really brought rhythm gaming to the States.
Yep.
Everywhere else kind of had like a clue about it or a few other titles that we never heard of here. A lot of people still have it. But everybody knows DDR, everybody knows Move It, everybody knows
Just Dance.
Just Dance.
Like, when they came out, they were something new. They were something exciting. And it was marketed very well as have fun, get your heart rate up because you fucking will. That shit'll make you sweat, man. Those games are so much fun. And if you're doing expert difficulty on double pads, get out. I don't need to see you doing that. Make me feel terrible that I can barely play on hard mode. Get the fuck out of here.
Those people, I would argue, are not even human. Them right there are some fucking aliens, bro.
Coming from a
God
lizard.
damn. Shut your face.
Damn it, he heard me.
No, but it's true. Like, but rhythm games were that whole like we're gonna make you sweat a little bit, and that's where the whole family fun thing came into play. Wii Sports did the same thing of like, granted, Wii Bowling. That shit made the family split in half. Like, for about an hour now, my mom is now my worst enemy, and she's aiming to kill me.
What about Wii Tennis, where people could literally just be like, "Oh no, I accidentally swung too far to the right and hit you in the head. My bad."
Surprisingly enough, my family, we did not care for Wii Tennis, and then when it came to the whole biking thing, where you had to like have the Wiimote in one hand and the nunchuck in the other, and then you had to actually bounce and jog them down in place. It just became a cheating thing because we found out, hey, as long as the Wiimote is moving, it'll still propel your character forward. So at one point, my brother and his competitive ass, he's sitting there, doing the whole bobbing up and down thing, realizes that he's about to fall 2 seconds behind my sister's score, so he just completely stops dead in his tracks. This is gonna look mad. Don't do that. Don't take this the wrong way. But he takes the Wiimote and he immediately is just like, Gah! Starts jerking this thing off just so that way his character would speed up, passes it, and he starts celebrating like he won. We're like, you're an asshole. You're just an asshole. You cheated. I don't care. I won. Ah!
What a dick.
Dick.
I held on to that story because I held a grudge. I still remember, Nick. 16 years later, I still remember.
So, you guys actually brought me to an interesting point of mine, because a lot of people in the younger day and age aren't going to know this because the opposite is happening. But back in the day, when an arcade game was so good, it would warrant a home port. So they would go through all the effort to do the programming and make it compatible with home consoles. And this was a big thing. DDR had it, where you can actually get dance pads for your house and we were that family. We had the dual pads, and we had 2 different DDR games. We had Remix and Ultra Remix 2, and we just played and had fun.
Oh my god. Wait, was Ultra Remix 2 the one that had like every single and like at the time of Anamanaguchi and Vocaloid on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm that old. My cousins actually
Anamanaguchi?
had the Time Crisis port that came with a light gun, and while it didn't have the pedal, it had a secondary trigger that was your pedal. It also had the thumbstick, so you can switch between full auto, semi, or burst on the pistol, something the arcade port didn't have at the time. And
you guys can't see it. My jaw is actually dropped right now. Continue.
She still has it. That's like it's in the original box, and she keeps it as a display piece on her shelf. So, back in the day, old ports like that weren't terribly uncommon. You would get cool games like Crazy Taxi, Time Crisis, DDR.
Fucking Crazy Taxi.
Crazy, yeah.
And see how good it is? It just made this man's eyes roll.
Dude. Crazy Taxi was ahead of its time. I love the fact that it got an Xbox 360 port that's now backwards compatible.
See? That's how good this game is. That's how good this arcade game is. And you don't even
went
get the
through
full
2 different
experience.
generations.
Yeah, in the arcade, you had big speakers, massive screen, a keypad so you could track your progress, and a huge, slidable driver's seat with speakers built into it. You don't get that on the home console, but it's still so good. They made it for GameCube, 2 generations of Xbox, and the PS2. Think about that for an arcade release. Absolute madness. And
that's how revolutionary Crazy Taxi was.
Yeah, it really was. And Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and the old Marvel vs. Capcom series, or SNK vs. Street Fighter, all started out their lives as arcade releases, and then they became the most legendary console titles of all time.
Yep.
And before I go off on this tirade, because I'm well researched in this stuff, I've spent way too much time into it. Actually, IRL right here, and up there are emulated, modded consoles that have all of these games I'm talking about. And I'm talking stuff from Dungeons and Dragons, Chronicles of Mysteria, to what's a good one? The unreleased JoJo's Bizarre Adventure 2D Fighter from Japan.
What the fuck?
Damn!
Yeah,
got a lot of shit over here. I'm not even a JoJo's fan, but I kind of like the flex of having it. All the JoJo fanboys, I don't play it. It just collects dust on the emulator. Get fucked. Anyways.
I've never seen JoJo's, but I've seen enough meme formats for it to where I feel like I already know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
You probably do. It's just a meme. All of it. It's disaster. But,
it's chaos.
Yeah. Back in the day, these consoles were out. Or, sorry, these ports were out. They're a thing that exists. But if you go to modern Dave & Buster's or any other big budget arcade, not a mom and pop setup like a big one, they're doing the opposite. Minecraft has arcade ports now. Beat Saber has arcade ports now.
Yeah.
Fruit Ninja, so when it got big, they had it inside Dave & Buster's too, to where it's like this oversized iPad, and you would also the one thing that I do miss. Nothing, just a side tangent before I go off on this, nothing was more satisfying than actually inserting a coin. I don't care for slide your points card. I want to go back to insert quarters. Yes, I'm still sour about this because it felt different. Hearing the change jingle in your pocket just hit different.
I don't mind the card for one reason.
Lightens the load.
No, I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh kid. I'm over dramatic as shit, especially if I'm challenging somebody who's already at a machine. I whip it out and smack it on there hella hard just to make a scene, and then I throw it back in my pocket like I'm holstering a pistol. It's so stupid. And go ahead and judge me. But it's fun and it's memorable, and it really makes an experience.
I can just picture hearing like the whiplash sound, and then just hear "Howdy, Pilgrim."
Howdy, gamer. Ready to game?
Grown-ass man with a goatee slams card on the reader. I'll be your Huckleberry. It's just stupid shit, right? And,
hey there.
I don't know. I had so much fun, and I enjoy these ports, but it. Oh yeah, I don't know if you guys know this. Halo has Dave & Buster's exclusively has a Halo arcade port.
Yes, I knew this. I wish I knew. I wish there was a Dave & Buster's that I knew of because I would go there just for that.
I mean, you're not missing a whole lot. It's about as mid as the rest of the Halo franchise.
Especially with Halo now. Oh yeah.
Halo. I'll say Halo now.
Controversy that happened to Halo.
I'll say Halo now, but you, sir, 1 through 3, that's blasphemy, right there, coming out your mouth.
Well, I told you the controversy that happened with Halo recently. That's maybe just like, okay, the icing on the cake is now you guys have dumpstered your franchise.
I'm not. Let's not get into this topic. I could go on forever.
I know.
I don't. It gets me mad just thinking about it. Fucking 343.
But back to arcades and shit. Again, I wish arcades were so much more prevalent because I'm in my 30s. I would still go chill at an arcade just because something as simple as like driving simulators from your Crazy Taxi to the Fast and Furious
to the Hydro Thunders.
At one point there was a Hydro Thunder. Where now you're not just manipulating a joystick and buttons. It's you're actually behind a steering wheel. It has gas pedals, and if it was immersive enough, like the Need for Speed one, it actually had a gear shift to where you could actually have to throw it into the correct gear to go the correct speed.
Hell, even to the point for those jet ski ones where you just hop on an actual like mechanized fucking game jet ski and you're just there and you have to actually turn your body and you use your body weight to move that bitch. Yup. Like, goddamn, that was so fun. Even though I sucked ass, but it was fun.
So, it's funny, DJ, you mentioned those racing games. When I went, quick story. I went to a business trip and my boss said don't eat any ridiculous. So I didn't go to the theme park. I went to Dave & Buster's, had a good salmon, got drunk, played arcade games. That's where I found out Hydro Thunder has a new version called H2 Overdrive. It's actually pretty good, really good port.
Yep.
House of the Dead has a new port. I don't want to get into that because Scarlet Dawn have a lot of opinions and will be here all day. And Cruisin' USA, Cruisin' California, they now have a new version called Cruisin' Blast. It's 6-player competitive. I played 4 races. I can't do 4 with these. 4 races. After the first one, everybody stopped playing with me, so I was playing by myself for a while. And when I would go to play, everybody would leave. Because for anybody who doesn't know, in the day, Hydro Thunder, Arctic Thunder, Cruisin' California, Cruisin' USA, Premium Rush, Premium 2024, and there's one more. Off-Road Extreme.
That's what to say. Off-Road Fury. What?
That's ATV Off-Road Fury.
Yeah, I know. And
that's some good shit right there.
Underrated, by the way. Those are fun.
Oh yeah. You want to be good at CS? Play ATV Off-Road Fury too.
Exactly. That shit transfers. Anyways, going.
It translates. It just direct correlation. Anyways, if you won those old racing games in first place, or you set a new track lap record, the next race was free. And you could do that up to like 5 times or something ridiculous like that. So, you play games like that, you grow up with them, you get really good at racing games. So when I went to Dave & Buster's, my grown-ass, adult, drunk ass is just sitting here just absolutely dusting these poor people. I'm not even going to say kids. There was a lot of adults in there. It would be me in first place at 1:26 track time. 1:45, everybody else starts rolling in. I was chilling and on my phone before they were finishing up the race.
And then the enemy's just like, I'll take my free race now, good show.
They don't do that.
But that was the incentive. I know, but that was the incentive back in the day. It's like, to get you to stay at that game, it was with the promise of a free race, you upon first place, you'll get a free race. So now you have people like me who can't play racing games worth a damn, thinking free race. All I have to do is win. I'm pumping in quarter after quarter after quarter because I want my one free race. Never got it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They actually had game concepts that sound so dangerous and like terrible for a place that serves alcohol. I wanted to run them by you guys, see if I can get your safety opinion on this.
Okay.
No, it's not safe.
It's a 12-foot long caged cabinet that's about 10 feet wide. 2-player, competitive, throwing full-size rubber dodgeballs at targets. It's a 2-player game.
I've seen that.
Have you seen that? Brandon, do you think this is a safe arcade experience?
I'd say no.
Me either. All it's going to take is one drunk fumble, and that ball's going flying out of that cabinet and just nailing somebody in the side of the head. It could be an adult. It could be an 8-year-old. It could be a hostess. We don't really know, but it's going somewhere. Especially if DJ's there.
See, that's why when it comes to arcades, I like Dave & Buster's. I won't drink alcohol knowing that I'm going to be playing games because I have a reputation to uphold.
I got sauced. I had like 2 pints before I started eating. I was like, give me a Blue Moon and a Lagunitas, and the guy's like, that is bold, sir. And I'm like, call it the yin and yang. Let's go. Give me my light and my dark beer.
No, but that was one of the beautiful things about arcades. Oh, sorry, you had more concepts. Whoops.
No.
Yeah, this is the last one, and it's gonna.
All right.
Might trigger something. It is called Axe Hero. It is a big caged unit that you step into. It's about 10 feet long. You grab full-size throwing axes, and they have rubber, like plastic heads. It's hard plastic heads. And you throw them into a dartboard, essentially, and they stick, and you score points that way.
Oh, yeah. That's safer than what I had to do, where I was using real axes, and then you threw them at a projection screen.
Brandon, do you think
that's how I cut my hand?
I think DJ's biased by the fact that he had an axe in his leg.
I do dangerous things.
I can still see. I mean, minus the fact that DJ was actually throwing real axes, I still see a potential injury with those axes, even if they are hard plastic.
Oh yeah, and there was a 9-year-old yeeting them bad boys, and I was waiting for one of them to come straight back and hit him in the face because he was not making it over the little thing you had to throw over. And he was nobody was there. No mom, no parent, no cousin, no screaming uncle. He was just there by himself, throwing them, sending it.
Okay,
dude, that's how a lot of parents did. If you had some like rowdy ne'er-do-well children, it was like take them to the arcade so that way you can have an hour or two of just fresh air. Like go to the park, go touch some grass with your bare toes, go do anything else because that child is not there. Granted, now you released your menace to a bunch of innocent, unsuspecting children whom are just trying to win tickets.
Yeah.
Doesn't you guys
I can
know?
see it.
Doesn't you guys know? I am low, so we should end this pretty soon.
Holy shit, we've been talking for a minute.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
We're definitely gonna have to do a part 2 of this then because I could easily keep going for another fucking hour.
Well, since we got to wrap soon, folks, and thank you for bearing with us for all of this.
Limitations.
We'll do our usual outros, but how about instead of our normal personal notes, arcade game you think is underrated, people should try. So we're gonna start with the editor who's almost out of power, so that way if he goes down, we can still hear him.
Fuck. Honestly, can you come back to me? I need to think about this one.
Yeah. Deej, how about yourself?
An underrated arcade game?
Yeah, any generation. Could be old, could be new, could be one you've only heard of. Just something you think people should try.
If you could ever find an actual standalone machine for it, I definitely that's actively working. Area 51 was just an absolute wild ride from start to finish. From fighting aliens to fighting actual like Area 51 soldiers, you're just a renegade trying to do something. I still to this day don't understand what the storyline was, but it was such a fun wild ride from start to finish.
The quick breakdown of the story. I know this is what we're doing, but I got to share it with you. You're a Secret Service soldier who's on damage control because an alien virus escaped and started turning this Area 51 staff into aliens. So you're there to clean it out and help the surviving soldiers.
All right.
Sorry, had to throw that out there. I love that game so much. A solid recommendation from DJ. Oof. Hitting me with the feels. Dog, what are you doing? She just headbutted my chair. She just walked up and just poof, slid me to the right. I'm like, what?
He's talking about his dog, by the way.
Yeah. You still need a little more time, Brandon?
No, I actually got one. Sticking to my usual preference of games, I'm just going to throw out the Terminator game.
I've still never found a working cabinet, so I'm on that recommendation list as well. I got to try it someday.
I only was able to play it once. The next time I was able to go to the place that had it, it was broken down. So
it's always broken because everybody loves it. It's always broken.
And just like DJ, I was that guy that would dual wield the fucking guns because you could.
Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things about arcades is how janky they were. House of the Dead, one of the guns is always going to be broken, or a screen is broken, or it's just eating your coins and not giving you credits.
Yeah. That happens a lot too.
Mm-hmm. All right, so quickly your recommendation before he dies.
Oh, without a doubt, I've talked about it on the channel before, but somehow not a lot of people know about it. 4D Dark Escape. It's a horror arcade game that, like the Jurassic Park one DJ mentioned, you sit in a cabinet, pull the curtains, but these are blackout curtains that are tinted red, so it looks very ominous with the light shining through. You grab your gun, it's two-handed grip, 2 players sitting on a bench. It's called 4D because it has a heart monitor, and it makes sure if you're going to have a panic attack, it shuts down and kicks you out. Because it has things touching your legs, air blowing in your face, the seat moves side to side, and each level is based on a phobia. Do not let that deter you. I'm not telling you to pick your phobia, but even if you have one, do one of the other maps. The game is one of the best arcade shooters of all time, hands down. And I would love to get a GoPro view of me and Deej in there just screaming, like, sending lead down range. Heart monitors tacked out just below panic attack. Oh my god, it's going to be a thing. We need to do that someday.
It's like their heart rate's at panic attack level, but they're yelling, hell yeah, hell yeah. They're enjoying this. Oh, God. They're sadists.
Would that be masochists? I think.
Yeah, I think it'd be masochists.
No, masochists like pain. Sadists like giving pain.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still.
So we'd be sending lead down range. We're killing them. We're hurting them. We're sadists.
I guess everything is perspective. I guess. Time's relative. Anyways. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been NoSkill Entertainment once again. That's been Brandon. This has been DJ, and I've been Mikey. And we'll have to catch it. God damn it! Seed showed up for the last part, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.